Well, we've reached the end. Yeah. You have tuned into part 6. Yeah. Campfire Talks Enzo Trapper build 6.0. We are going to look tonight at a little bit of handle finishing video, and then we're going to talk about the process, what I learned from it, and we'll sort of give a tabletop review, TheApostleP style, to a knife built by TheApostleP. That ought to be interesting. Stay with me, guys. Hi gang, Rob here. It is the evening of 11 June 2014. Tonight, you're not going to look at my face. You're going to look at the knife. This is it, all done. You take a look at a little bit of footage of the last stages of this build, the handle finishing stages. So take a look at that, and I'll meet you back here at the sharpening bench and tell you what I learned about building a knife. Okay guys, the last of the sanding is done. Now comes the fun part. A little boiled linseed oil finish. Let's watch this curly maple come alive. There we go. Get enough on that rag to do the whole handle. Won't hurt the steel at all, guys, to get the linseed oil on it. Not a bit. In fact, it kind of likes it. The way we'll do this, just like we did the hatchet, if you guys remember that. Look at that. Would you look at that? Isn't that gorgeous? Kind of interesting, the better of the two scales, or the prettier of the two, end up being on the presentation side for a lefty. Okay, now this knife handle has on it about 5, maybe 6 coats of boiled linseed oil. And after the last coat and then this coat, what we're going to do is rub the handle with some double-aught steel wool. This will knock down any high spots swollen into the grain of the wood, knock out any bubbles or any globs of linseed oil that we might have had dry up. Like right now I can see there's a little excess on my pins. So we're going to give this a good rub and make it as clean and beautiful as we can. And this is going to be the last time I apply steel wool. And after I finish this rub, Probably gonna do another 3 coats or so. And we'll let those really set up in between coats. So tonight is, what is tonight? Tuesday the 10th. So I'll probably do this coat, maybe another one tomorrow morning when I wake up. And then leave that probably until late tomorrow night. Apply one more. And after that last coat, I'll probably let that dry for 24 hours. And then the last thing I'll do is just a final rub, like a buff, with a cotton cloth. Just going to get my paper towel nice and damp with acetone just to collect any of the steel wool fragments that are hanging around my blade here. A little magnetism in that blade, I'm noticing. And time to apply another coat. How are we going to get the lid open on the linseed oil? I wonder. How about a Victorinox Ranger? Been the bench knife here at the TheApostleP sharpening bench for a few months now. Now to apply the linseed oil, I'm using pieces of a cut up t-shirt, or I could give them a more manly term, gun cleaning patches. And let's watch it come alive once more. Well, let's start with what you just saw, and I'll kind of explain what I did and why I did it on finishing the handle. Don't know how well the camera will pick this up as we take a long look, and I'm going to give you a long and close up look, the whole knife. You can see there is sort of a satiny finish to that gorgeous curly, you know what, we thought it was curly maple, but that was Campfiretalk's recollection, or I heard him wrong. It turns out that most of these Enzo Trapper kits are curly birch, so that's what it might be. And Campfiretalk, if you know for sure that this is curly maple, please let us know in the comments. It's sort of satiny finished because I finished sanded it through 400 grit paper and applied about 5 or 6 coats of boiled linseed oil before I started the steel wool process. And then after that 5th or 6th coat, knocked any grind that came out down with steel wool, and then did that twice, and then in between coats, and then 2 more after that final steel wool stage. So that's either 8 or 9 coats over a 3-day period. And then to finish, after the second to last coat and the last coat, just vigorous buffing with a cotton cloth, and this is what we end up with. The reason I stopped at 400 grit paper is that as this knife, comes in contact with Campfiretalk's hands, and as he sweats and as those hands get wet and use this handle, as that linseed oil finish ages, I wanted the knife to have a little bit of natural grip. This isn't a museum piece or a Safe Queen. This is going to be a bushcraft knife that's going to be used by Campfiretalk, and the rest of the story is this, guys. He bought this kit just about the time that his son was born a couple years ago, and his intention was then and is now to build this knife as an heirloom to be passed down to his son, and it's going to be used in the meantime, and hopefully used after it's passed down. And I feel pretty honored to be part of that process, so that when Camp hands this knife down to his boy, he can tell him that his friend and Christian brother Rob from the TheApostleP channel on YouTube, which may not even be in existence anymore by then, helped him get this knife ready to use, so that when this day came, his son would be able to have this knife handed down with lots of love in its history. Pretty cool. That's a long way to go to tell you this might not be maple, it might be birch. But anyway, it's all done now, and it'll have a little grip. Man, that handle feels good in the left hand. It surely does. Love it. Okay, now I'm going to back up through the process, explain some things that happened along the way and what I learned. Now, I didn't start off with a shop full of knife making tools. Started off with a saber saw, a rasp, some epoxy, a couple C-clamps, a couple blocks of wood, some sandpaper, cordless drill. I was not equipped, and still am not equipped, to make, start to finish, a high quality custom fixed blade knife. I did add one piece of equipment along the way, and you saw it in 5.0, I believe, my new 1x30 grinder. Got some things coming up too that are going to enable me to buy more equipment. I think there's a drill press on the horizon. I did learn a couple things though. Cutting out the rough pattern of the scales with a saber saw on such a small piece of wood, which is very hard to clamp, can be difficult. In fact, I made a couple mistakes right in this area and one in this area. Got too close to my line, and my red G10 liners ended up being, at least in this area, there's a little area right through here where there's a catch. Doesn't look bad, but it's a little bit recessed from the surface of the wood and the steel. I was able to get the one completely out on the underside of the handle, but if I had it to do over again, I would probably either use a small bandsaw with a thin blade, or just do the whole thing on the grinder. Just, hog that wood off with sandpaper on the 1x30. Here's something else. It's coming really tight. You guys take a look at these pins. If you notice, my holes are just a little ragged. Now, I can't really catch a fingernail, but visually, I think you can see some tiny little gaps around those pins. It's kind of hard to tell if it's grain, dark spots in the wood, or if it's voids, but I think they're not as tight as they could be. The reason for that, no drill press. I'm trying to control a drill that wants to really bite into wood and dig down hard. They just weren't as round as they could have been. That's why a drill press will be on the way fairly soon for making knives similar to this. One tool I had in place and didn't mention is a Dremel tool. I tried to do a lot of work with a Dremel tool clamped in a vise with a drum sanding attachment. What are those things, like a 1/2 inch, 5/8 in diameter and 1/2 inch tall? Not really the right tool for this job. On my new drill press, I will make a jig for a large diameter drum sander, something that holds the knife sort of up off the drill press table, and the drum sander will sit below the surface of that block, so I can rest the knife on the block, run it into the drum sander on a solid foundation, and get into the places I need to get to that are concave. That's really the right tool for the job. You saw me trying to use the upper wheel on the 1x30 as a contact wheel. It's really not made for that. It's not flat across. It's high in the center and sort of has a radial profile. Other than that, I think I think the tools I have are pretty adequate. Other than those areas I just mentioned, it's all handwork anyway. This thing is absolutely custom fit for a left-hander. A little more bulbous on the palm side scale than on the finger side scale. So it fills up my palm and gives my fingers sort of a flatter indexing point, which works just superbly. All in all, I think it came out really, really well. I think my corners came out fairly straight across with pretty consistent radiuses and tapers. I don't know if I can show you this without running into the tripod. My satin on the edge of the tang of the knife came out pretty good. It runs nice and consistently down the spine of the knife, pretty much all the way to the tip. My carefully planned process that I kicked around in my head for about a month about how to finish the front of the knife without damaging the bead blast came out really well. As you guys will remember, from here forward on each scale, I essentially had them finished to 400 grit before I ever assembled the knife, so I didn't have to come in and sand these areas to finish sand these areas post-assembly, thus wiping out the bead blast. It was very important to Campfiretalk that we be able to see that piece of laser etching right there, the D2. We did not want to obliterate that if we could possibly help it. That's part of the reason for this handle design. The other part is I think it just works so well. In that side grip with my thumb in the divot, I've just got rock solid control of that knife. In a hammer grip, if I'm back on the handle, the knuckle of my thumb rests right in that thumb divot. If I'm in a forward hammer grip, my thumb can lay right down across the front of that scale, just a completely locked in reference point. The knife can't go anywhere, forward or backward, and my thumb is in absolutely no danger of contacting the cutting edge. I am really, really happy with the way this knife handle turned out. I mean, really happy. Man. Now, let's talk about this edge a little bit. As you can see, and if you watched the other parts of this series, I had a little work to do on this factory Scandi Grind. It was a little asymmetrical at the tip. I think we got that squared away pretty well, as close as we can. And then I just tried to put a nice even satin Scandi on. And you can definitely see, let's come in close here, which is my better hand, can't you? So, this side of the knife, the right side as you're looking down the spine, was done with my left hand on the handle. The satin is much more consistent. I shouldn't say much more, they're both pretty good, but once we get out to the tip, this side that was done with my right hand isn't quite as good. And then, I'm not a lover of the zero grind on a Scandi done to a satin finish. You know, guys, if you're in the field and you're using a flat rock and you're, you know, sharpening your Scandi grind, don't you bring it to a burr and then, you know, if we're sharpening at this angle, don't we pick it up a little bit, exaggerated motion there, just to deburr it and put a more refined edge on, maybe even strap it. What I did is I used the tool at hand, which I perceive to be a really good tool for the job. Let me come in very close and you'll see there is a tiny, about 10 thousandths wide, polished micro bevel, just done at about 3 or 4 degrees more than the Scandi grind. I did sort of, when I do my next one of these, I'm going to do it a little different. We already talked about this, how the angle of the Scandi grind starts to steepen about right here, and it gets really steep to the tip. I mean, you can see it yourself. That's probably almost 40 to 45 degrees inclusive at the tip. So, you know, 20 to 22 degrees per side. I didn't really account for that very well when I did the micro bevel, so I swept it all the way to the tip, and you can see that it looks a little broad. That's because the first angle I set worked great down here, but didn't even contact the cutting edge up here at the tip. So I sort of readjusted things and then did this portion of the blade from my thumb to the tip again. So the micro bevel is also steeper at the tip than it is down here at the base. Cosmetically, I don't love that. There's one of my 2 visible mistakes that only I, Campfiretalk, and those of you who watch this video will see, would notice on this knife. And frankly, this one will be gone the first time it gets sharpened. Why am I going to leave it like that? Well, here's why. It might be cosmetically a little bad, but yeah, that's how the knife cuts. Let's see how it does out here at the tip. Still doing okay out there at that really steeply ground tip. Still cutting well. And that, you know, that micro bevel out the tip, probably 25 degrees. So am I happy with my first sort of semi-custom knife build using kit materials? Yes, I am. Is it the best I can do? It was when I did it. It won't be a year from now. Is it a knife that I'm happy to send one of my dearest friends so he can use it and pass it on to his son? Yeah, I'm happy. And I hope you will be as well, Campfiretalk. Several hours and a lot of love went into this one. And it's a start. I have goals, dreams, and objectives, and this Enzo Trapper for Campfiretalk is sort of the first step. What a blessing to be able to do this, be part of this community, and have the kind of relationship with somebody who's several hundred miles away that says, hey, here's my knife kit I haven't had time to do to make for my son. Could you finish it for me? What an honor. That's all, guys. We've come to the end of the Campfiretalk's Enzo Trapper build. Hope you enjoyed coming along for the ride. And watching me learn, make mistakes, and learn from them. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the word is sharp.